There's another case that stands out to me just because the loss was really devastating. A mother who had relocated to Florida with her 3 children, 2 of them being twins and 1 being special needs, autistic. She took her daughter during the very beginning of COVID several years back to the emergency room in her local city because her daughter was having some GI issues and some issues, and her daughter turned out to have low potassium. She needed her potassium elevated, and they got the potassium fixed, but they didn't admit her to the hospital. They didn't send her home with a prescription. They basically did the very minimum to raise the potassium enough to let her out of the hospital, but it was during the time of COVID, and while she was special needs and while she was communicative and she was verbal, she was high functioning autistic, she wasn't someone that without mom's assistance and knowledge would really know exactly what was going on in terms of her medical care. And so mom got her home without any prescriptions, without any real instructions, because it was all kind of told to her through the door in the time of COVID because she couldn't come back to the emergency room at all. And she just knew something wasn't right. But she said, hey, they called me from the hospital, follow up. They told me everything's fine. Nobody said come back in. Nobody said do anything. And within, I think it was 48 hours, her daughter was dead. Her daughter had a sudden cardiac arrhythmia because when you don't regulate the potassium in the manner that it needed to be regulated, it can cause these arrhythmias. And proving it was not easy. This case had its challenges because it happened in an emergency room setting, which are always very challenging cases. Doctors in emergency rooms have certain protections. It also happened where there was a PA that was treating the victim in the emergency room and some nurses, and there just wasn't anything that really jumped out in the medical records in their treatment that would indicate that she wasn't stable when she left or that she needed to be admitted. And then just finding the right expert to figure out the mystery here and to understand how that cardiac arrhythmia was caused and what must have been going on with her in that next 48 hours when, mom was doing the best she could but had no clue that this was a sudden medical emergency. And it was just devastating to the mother. And so she became a real close person that needed to be kind of supported in this endeavor and would not be the type of person that would have taken legal action but for the memory of her child. And that's what it was all about. And so she was very relieved when we could close her case after a number of years. So if this sounds like something that you've experienced, even if you have doubts as to what really happened, please contact us at Fair and Fair because without investigation and putting the pieces together, we never would have really figured out what happened here.